and welcome to Connected with Krissy. Today I am here with Caroline Peters. She is known as the White Wolf Mystic on Instagram, and she is a professional astrologer as well as a spiritual soul coach. So I'm so excited to be with you today. I have never sat with a professional astrologer before, so I am super excited because this is not a subject that I know a whole lot about. So thank you, Caroline, for being here with me.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So I always like to start with how do people get started in their vocation? How did you get started in astrology? Then did it become life coaching? So tell us your background.
Okay. I started in my 20s. I was, trying all these different jobs and feeling kind of lost and stuck and not really sure, who am I? What are my skills? What are my gifts? What am I meant for? What is my life path? I started studying astrology as a means of getting the answers to those questions.
And did you meet an astrologer, or did you just stumble upon it on your own?
I stumbled upon it on my own.
Wow.
Yeah, I think I had a brief astrology reading from this guy who did a 15-minute birth chart reading.
Okay.
And I started studying that report, which was, helpful. But then it was studying on my own, my chart and what the different planets meant and their archetypes. And it started to give me the answers to those existential questions. It helped give me direction and recalibrate how to invest my time and energy and what careers would fit me and which ones didn't. So I think in some ways I saved a lot of time.
Yes.
Meandering.
Yes. And when is a good time to move towards things, and when is a good time just to sort of coast?
Right.
Yeah. So I want to start with the basics of the basics. So most of us know our sun sign is our birthday. That's the main one that everyone knows. But then you also have your moon, you have your rising or ascendant, and then we have eclipses and transits and conjunctions. So break this down for me in a simple layman's term. So I am a Capricorn sun, which I do fit a lot of those characteristics, but then I have an Aries moon and a Scorpio rising. So what does that mean? Because I do think now people are getting more what is my ascendant? What does that mean? What is my moon? Because our generation grew up reading our horoscopes.
Right.
It wasn't a weird thing for us. And now we're diving deeper because we're a generation that's wanting to go deeper into spirituality. Yes. So tell me about those.
Okay. So the sun is, as the center of our solar system, it's this big, bright, burning star. It gives energy and life. So your sun is a huge core part of your personality. It represents your ego, your consciousness. So your sun represents where you want to spend a lot of that time and energy and vitality. Now your moon is the unconscious. So going with these sacred symbols, the sun being the conscious, the moon the unconscious, the sun being the masculine, the moon the feminine, sun being active, moon being passive. So moon is your emotional nature. It's your unconscious mind. It's what you do without even thinking about it. It's what fulfills you on an internal level. And then your rising is kind of how you approach life. I also like to look at the rising as the energy you're rising into. So it may seem at times like the energy of your rising sign is where you have a little bit of insecurity. So as you embody more the rising sign and recognize that that's the energy you're rising into, you can put yourself into more of those situations that are going to resonate with your rising sign. So having those three, but also all the inner planets. So the inner planets are Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, and Mars. Those are sacred to you and your personality.
Oh, it's so detailed.
It is.
There's so much. I almost don't even know where to start. So can we go through the sun signs, and you just maybe give a 1 or 2 word answer on what each one kind of is?
Ooh, that's tough.
Is that hard?
They're so complex.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, we can do it, though. We can do it.
Okay.
So I'll do it this way.
as like simplified as you can get it,
Yes.
just so everybody watching gets sort of something out of it, no matter what sign they are.
All right, so we'll do it by the elements.
Okay.
So we'll do earth, fire, air, and water.
Okay.
So starting with
Oh,
earth.
and that's also something that I didn't even mention. Like they're all, it's like you have Capricorn, Virgo, earth signs,
Yeah.
Aries, who they're fire. Aries, Leo, fire.
Sagittarius. So I'll go. So
Yes,
earth is
you do it.
Capricorn. It's okay. It's a lot to learn. So start small. Start with whoever you feel called to explore. But the earth signs are Capricorn, Taurus, and Virgo. Capricorn is very much the energy of like self-mastery. Capricorns are super driven, very success-oriented, very career-driven. You know, Capricorns are here to embody the highest potential of the self in the physical world in terms of accomplishment. Taurus is here to experience pleasure and experience.
They love food.
They love food.
Yeah, I knew
They love
that.
all sensual pleasures.
Yes.
Taurus, like a great keyword for Taurus is embodiment.
Okay.
Embodying the senses. They're also very work driven. I mean, all the earth signs are very work driven, very grounded in the physical realm. And then Taurus is also very nurturing because they're ruled by Venus. Virgo is as a mutable earth. They are here to perfect systems, to come up with the most efficient way of doing things. Refinement is a great keyword for Virgo, and they're a sign of service.
Yeah.
So then we've got the air signs. We've got Aquarius, Gemini, and Libra. Air signs are here for the intellect. They're here to think, to communicate. Analytical.
Yeah, my husband, very analytical.
Yes.
And I'm like, who cares? Like,
it's Aquarius, though. Aquarius, I care.
Yeah.
So yeah, Aquarius is also a sign of service, but service through intellectual and scientific pursuits.
Okay. So that's why they like their like technology and their computers and their stocks, like their numbers and all that kind of stuff.
Yes, super like ingenious in terms of mental processes.
Okay.
And then Geminis are super curious. They're here to learn, to communicate, to explore.
And you are a Gemini sun.
Yes, I am. So synergizing information. I like to think of Geminis as being kind of the encyclopedia. Like they have not the whole ton like mastery of one topic, but they can tell you a little bit about every topic and where you can go to find out about this topic. Like they're the organizers of information.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
And then Libra, also being ruled by Venus, just like Taurus, they're also very much into beauty and aesthetics. They make great interior designers, makeup artists. They're great at marketing. They know how to create that flow of beauty and information.
I had this boss that I worked for 7 years. I loved him. It was at a Mess. He was a Libra, and guess what the name of the spa was?
What?
Venus. It's weird, right? Like it's so strange.
Well,
like how
astrology
all
can be
this.
very literal, though.
Yeah.
It really can manifest very literally.
Yeah, he loved, like, and he wasn't like creepy or anything. I just loved him. He was like super sweet, super cool, but like just loved beauty.
Yes.
Like it was just all about it.
And they're great at it. They're great at it. I mean, their homes are always the most beautifully decorated. They love the fine things, but they're also very charismatic, very charming,
100%.
very diplomatic. They tend to be called to mediate in certain situations.
Yeah, don't like confrontation. Like he did not like confrontation, like which was a little bit like I'm like, come on, dude, like stand up a little bit. Yeah. Okay, so then we've got fire.
So we have Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius.
Okay.
So fire energy is very like initiating. It just has that like burning fire kind of like I need to go after this. They have lots of energy. They're always moving. And so fire is also passion, right? Aries is a sign of leadership. They need to be here to like lead the way into new frontiers. They are here to kind of similar to Capricorn in the sense of self-mastery, but mastery through pursuit of different experiences. They need to see how far they can go. They're very boundary pushing. Don't like to be told what to do. Don't try and confine an Aries. It's not going to go well.
Yes. I have some Aries in my chart, and I also worked for an Aries last job. So I understand that
fully.
Free
to do things your way.
Yes.
And then Leo is a sign of self-expression and vivaciousness. They love to be center stage. They love attention. They thrive on respect and admiration. They may not all admit it, but they need that respect and admiration. They're also leadership, kind of like the lion, very regal in their sense of leadership and responsibility. So that's Leo. And then Sagittarius is here for the purpose of direct experience of finding meaning and purpose in life, and also higher wisdom. Sagittarius are often teachers, professors.
Yeah, why is it all of my nannies have been Sagittariuses? Explain that.
They're just like the sign of the teacher. I don't know how to explain it. They're on an eternal pursuit of truth.
Yeah, and they're like, are you reading with him? And I'm like, what am I supposed to do? I'm working. Like, right, Capricorn. I'm like, I'm working. Like, is that, I don't understand. But all of it, my Sagittarius have been the best nannies.
Yeah.
Like, they're so good at, like you said, like, teach it this wild.
Imparting wisdom.
Yeah.
Yes.
And is there something with children there, or did that just work out in my
just
case?
In your experience.
Okay.
I mean, Leo rules the 5th house, which is the house of children. So you think Leo would be more, but it's a combination of energy. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
And Sagittarians are here for meaning and purpose.
Yeah, and teaching. Interesting.
And teaching. Yeah, through some way, shape, or form. And then we have the water signs. So we have Pisces. We have, oh my God, I'm totally spacing. It's early morning. Pisces.
It is early.
Scorpio, Cancer.
Yeah.
I'm in this Cancer moon right now. So
Yes,
it's like harder to tap into the intellectual realm. But yes, Pisces, Cancer, and Scorpio. So the water element, they're here for emotional connection. That like intuitive, emotional, watery realm. Music is also in this realm. They're very much into like the energy. So Pisces are here for human connection. They need to have a lot of different experiences. They're very empathic, very sensitive to different people's energies as well. They're also highly creative, whether it is through music or through art or through poetry. I find a lot of Pisces are drawn to film.
Yeah.
Super drawn to film.
Like writing screenplays or like writing something. Yeah, I can think of like two, and they were both they both wrote like did that as part of like their living. So it's really crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
I might have some air energy in there.
Yeah. So how did you come to?
Why did we get Cancer and Scorpio?
Oh, okay.
Don't forget Cancer and Scorpio.
Okay. Yeah, we don't want to forget that.
Cancer is ruled by the moon, so they're very nurturing, a very kind of maternal energy, whether they're masculine or feminine. They love to care for others, very affectionate in that way. And human relationships are very important to them. Their family is incredibly important to them. They need to have a nurturing family, whether it's blood family or whatever family they create for themselves.
Family, yeah.
And then Scorpio is watery energy, but it's much more like depth, like the bottom of the ocean. They need to really explore the deeper meaning of life, the dark depths. They need to understand why things are the way they are. They tend to see beyond what most people can see.
Okay.
Which is why so many of them are drawn to the conspiracy theories, because they just can see beyond.
I didn't know that. Okay. Yeah. Well, the day and time we're living in now,
the truth.
Like conspiracy theories are like real life. So
yeah.
Wow. That was insane, just that little bit. So how did you come to because your real name, Caroline Peters, how did you come to use the name White Wolf Mystic for social media, and what does that mean? Like, I know we talked earlier about the Indian, the tribal connection potentially. How did that, tell me that story.
Yeah, so back in 2014, when I was kind of having like, it was after my spiritual awakening, but I was wanting to connect more deeply to spirit, and this white wolf appeared in a dream, and it was super symbolic, and she was basically like, I'm here to guide you. I have all the wisdom of the human race, all the way back to the very first human. Like, I carry it with me, and I'm here. You can consult with me anytime you want. So she just imparted all this wisdom. It was such a magical, mystical experience.
Wow.
So she is kind of, a lot of the wisdom I share comes from her. So that's kind of the name White Wolf Mystic, and also everything being more spiritual in nature. A lot of the things that I channel, even beyond astrology, is kind of mysticism. So
does she come to you through dreams only, or just
I work with
sitting
her now.
Here? Okay.
That was how she first came to me, but now I can channel her. So I'll bring her with me to certain situations. I'll visualize her next to me.
Well, we welcome her in to chat with us as much as she wants today, because we're going to do a couple of different things. Wow, that's super cool. Also, what about eclipses and transits? So we hear those words, but and obviously most of us know what an eclipse is physically. What does that mean, though, like as far as like astrology goes?
Yeah, so basically your birth chart is a snapshot of where all the planets were in the sky at the time you were born. So that represents the blueprint of your destiny, so to speak. But the planets continue to move throughout the sky, right, through their orbits and whatnot. And so as they link up with certain zodiac signs, as they link up with each other, they create astrological events. And so the eclipse being one, depending on whether it's a lunar eclipse or solar eclipse, right, is when the sun and moon come together. And eclipses tend to be portals of change. So eclipses can signal endings, powerful endings, massive change and transformations. And then other transits, you know, all the outer planets and inner planets, as they move throughout the sky, they create energies that we all interact with on a regular basis. So, for example, when Venus is moving through the sign of Leo, we're all more drawn to share more and to show up more. When Venus is in Cancer, we want to spend more time at home and with family. So how the transits work is, if, you know, they didn't move throughout different signs and energies, we'd be stuck in the same energy all the time. So thank God they do move, otherwise we would never have change.
This is why sometimes we feel like we need to go more inward, why sometimes we feel more like outward and bubbly. So where are we at right now with the transits? What kind of energy are we in right now? So I watched her, let me just back up and say, I watched Caroline's, like, and you guys have to go to YouTube and watch this. I'll link it in the description. I watched her 2020 predictions that she did in January, right? I was blown away that you could tell this much from astrology. So I'm going to let you pick up there, but just watch this video, you guys, and watch Caroline, like, blew me away yesterday when I was watching this video.
Yeah, so it's crazy. It seems like so long ago back in
she didn't even remember. She was like, oh, really? And I was like, I was blown away.
Yeah, so I did this overview just to go over all the major astrological transits of 2020, because there were so many historical ones happening in 1 year. And specifically the Saturn-Pluto conjunction, which happens once every 34 years. And if you even Google Saturn-Pluto conjunction, you'll go back and see we astrologers have been talking about this for months, all the way back to
Saturn-Pluto.
Saturn-Pluto conjunction.
Okay.
So what happens when Saturn and Pluto meet by conjunction? You know, the last one was in 1914. We had World War I.
1914.
The one in the 40s, we had the Cold War. The one in the 80s, we had a major global recession and an economic recession.
And when was the one in the 80s? And 82, did you say? 82? I think you said 82 because I think it was the year after I was born.
Yeah. But it always leads to massive global economic collapse usually, and then change. So whether it's through a war or whether it's through a virus, and there's a reason for it. It's because if things get too stagnant, these systems we've built for ourselves, and they're not serving us anymore, you know, we'll keep going, you know, living our lives without really making major change unless something comes in, and, you know, we kind of called it the wrecking ball. So I was talking about that and how
Saturn-Pluto's the wrecking ball. I love that. I will never forget that now for as long as I live. Yeah. And we were talking about, so tell me about the one in January where we were all feeling like, so I was telling Caroline, I said, I was feeling the change, and I was feeling like I wanted to, like, do something different, and I kept muscle testing myself, and I was getting no's. You can't change right now. You can't just flip your switch and do something completely different. Well, then I found out a few months later why, and that was in March when we got shut down with everything, and then you would not have been good for me based upon those decisions had I, you know, jumped ship then. But because I waited, I was able to put myself in a really pretty position. So these are like things that you can use to your advantage. And I wasn't using like so much astrological. I was using more spiritual, intuitive guides, because I knew that the change was coming, and I knew it needed to happen. But I kept asking, "Can I go? Can I go? Can I go?" And they were like, "No, no, no." But then when, you know, we got quarantined and shut down, then I realized why. It's because it was coming anyways, and I was not going to have to do any action with it. It was just going to happen.
Yeah, and a lot of the clients I was working with in December, January were feeling the same thing. They felt like they were stuck or lost, or they want to make a change but they can't, or they were being held in place, or they were being massively shifted and they didn't know why. Yeah, because this was all coming.
Oh, so. You want to know what else? Oh, I just got chills. I forgot about this till just this moment right now. I also felt like I was I've never had burning fire in my stomach before and had body shaking. I also think that I may have had like a Kundalini awakening during like January, February. It would happen at night, and I would be kind of like in bed. I would get like the fire here, which has never happened, and then the sort of body shaking. So can astrology bring on those types of things, or it was just a shift in general that I could feel?
I think it's all connected, right?
I do too.
Feels it, whether you're a psychic medium or you're a tarot reader, whatever it is, you're feeling the same energy. What I found so fascinating is all the different mystical, metaphysical backgrounds, they all agree with each other. They don't contradict each other.
Right.
So you're all tapping into the same energy, whether you're studying the planets or you're pulling cards or you're tapping into your body's like energy field. I mean, so many people I knew in December, January felt like they were on the cusp of something. Like, I feel something's coming. I don't know what it is, but I feel
exactly
something's coming.
where I was. I just felt a big change. I was like, something's got to give. This is not working.
Yeah.
That was like, my thought was like, this is not working. Like, this is not who I am. I felt like I actually wasn't in alignment with who I was because I was sort of doing something a little too often during the week that was giving my time to something that just wasn't beneficial.
Right.
So where are we at now, and what can we look for in the next month or two?
So, I mean, 2020 is going to be a crazy year. It's not over. We've had 3 major Jupiter-Pluto conjunctions this year. We've just had 2. We still have 1 more in November, shortly after the election, a couple weeks after the election. We have some major astrological energy going on in November. So it's going to be a pretty turbulent year. I'm just letting everybody know. We're in this ride for a while because, again, Saturn and Pluto was ultimately here to deconstruct everything so that we can rebuild, and we still have some demolition.
Because I think that we can all agree that, like, going to work and killing yourself for 80 hours a week, to barely be able to pay your bills or like whatever. I mean, it's not sustainable, and it doesn't like feed our soul. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel very strongly that we are being called to our spiritual and our soul paths right now. So is that anywhere in here?
And this has been coming for a while. This has been coming since, I won't get too in depth into this.
No, I want you to.
2020 was a major awakening for most, or not 2020, 2012.
2012, I knew. Yeah, the end of the Mayan calendar. Yeah.
Yeah, so basically what's happening as we're evolving in our consciousness, there are like 2 timelines that are splitting, and you'll hear a lot about this online too if you search it. But there's the old Earth 3D paradigm and the new Earth 5D paradigm.
Oh, this is the second person in a row that knew about the 3D versus the 5D.
Yes.
Like, no one that I know in my quote-unquote real life knows about this. So what does that mean to you, 3D versus 5D?
Yeah, so 3D is kind of that old paradigm of having to work and slave hours and hours to make money to provide for yourself, and these old structures where there are certain gatekeepers that are in control of everything that you experience and that want to keep you in debt and want to keep you medicated and want to keep you sedated so that you can be this worker bee for them. And then the 5D consciousness, as we're waking up, is spirit consciousness, where we don't always have to work so hard. Just being who we are in our gifts is our contribution, and we will be supported.
First time in my life I've done that since I was in high school. And I'm being supported in all ways, and I cannot believe it. So I feel that on all levels. So if people are feeling like, and I don't mind if you get spiritual too, because that's part of what you do. It's astrological, but it's spiritual too. What can people do to prepare themselves?
So I'll break it down really simply. Old Earth or 3D is essentially fear timeline, and 5D New Earth is love timeline. So very simply, on an energetic level, moment to moment, focus on love. Focus on unity, focus on hope, focus on your power, embodying your gifts. Because the old 3D paradigm is fear, and it's greed, and it's grasping, and it's resistance. And so embodying that energy of surrender and trust and love and unity is like the best way to approach everything.
Okay.
So at any moment to moment check-in, am I choosing fear or am I choosing love?
Am I choosing fear, or am I choosing love? I love that, because even me, even though I am being completely supported right now, I have not had a want nor a need since all this happened. I'm looking at the job postings going, maybe I should do it. Maybe I should do it. But then I'm no, Spirit is calling you to do this. How do we navigate? How do we navigate that?
The old paradigm is slowly dying. And people feel it, and it's going to be a regular, you're going to have to check in with yourself and be okay, that's just the old paradigm. It's been so ingrained in me. I grew up in it, so it's understandable that it's extra sticky. Yeah. But it's about, surrendering. And it is tough because some people worry about the future and what's going to happen this time and then this and then later. And it's about being in the present moment and just trusting that if you're choosing that spiritual path, the 5D reality, and being embodied in your gifts and being of highest service, just being at the highest vibration you can possibly be, everything
Right.
will fall into place.
Right. I know it's so
But it's gonna
hard.
take practice.
As like a Capricorn, I'm like, oh, no, I'm gonna run out of money. No, I have to go get a job. But I have not needed. It's almost been, I think, 4 months now. I've been completely supported in all ways. But
Isn't that beautiful?
Yes, it's beautiful. I feel literally like a kid who's like carefree, and I don't know how.
That's our divine nature. That's how we're meant to be.
Right? Like,
you know?
I don't know. Like, I actually feel really guilty. Like, sometimes when, like, my girlfriends will text me and they'll be like, how are you doing? I'm like, I'm doing great. Like, I'm doing lovely. Like,
so beautiful.
but then I feel kind of bad, like, if they're not having the same experience. So how do we handle that? Because a lot of light workers are. There's a big, you know, people are fighting on the internet. I know you've seen it on the Facebook.
I'm so glad you asked that question. Because
Yeah.
I have some newly awakened light workers that I work with too, and they're asking me, how do we help people? And how do
Yeah,
we... The very
like-
first thing I will tell you is whether people are choosing the 3D reality or the 5D reality, everyone has free will. We're all making our own choices, and we all have our own journey. We all have our own soul contracts, what we came here to learn. So let people learn. It's not our responsibility to save everyone. We are here to help and to offer a path and to offer guidance. It's up to people to take it. But if they're choosing fear and if they're choosing anxiety,
Chaos.
it's their choice.
Yeah.
And you know, in some ways too, and I'll be a little blunt about this, light worker community, sometimes we get on that high and mighty path that we believe our way is the best way. But the 3D path, the path of chaos, has its own benefits for those that have a lot of karma racked up and they're here to absolve all that karma in one lifetime. And by choosing the chaotic 3D world of fear and whatnot, they're actually learning a lot and can absolve themselves of a lot of karma in one lifetime.
That's
So
a really good way to
they're
look at
both
it.
valuable. It's
Yeah.
what experience do you want to have? But it's not judging the path people are choosing.
Right.
Even if it seems like, well, why would you want that path?
Right.
They have their own free will. They're making
Yeah,
their own
because
choices.
I find myself right now in a space of like, I'm really like good. And I have been a person of chaos in the past. I'll just admit it. And so I'm not talking as much. And so I'm getting the text, are you mad? Are you okay? Like, are you mad at me? Are we not friends anymore? And I'm like, no, I just don't have any chaos to share.
That's interesting.
You know?
Sharing in that disturbance, the turbulence.
Yeah,
has been so
I
long
don't
part of the human
have any
experience.
chaos to share, so I just am not talking as much. I also feel like when you're quiet, you get a lot more of the downloads. Like, I feel like the intuition over the past 4 months has just blasted off. Because you can't hear that type of
You have
thing
to
in the
be
chaos.
quiet and still and for long enough.
Yeah. So what do you say to people whose friends are texting them like me going, what's wrong with you? You're different. You don't like me anymore? Why are we not friends? Because every time, not all, every time, but sometimes it's just texting to talk about the chaos. And I actually, I haven't had any in a few months, you know, knock on wood. And I know that's all chapter cycles, waves.
Yeah.
But like, how do you answer that to somebody without like hurting their feelings? Because I feel like there's a lot of, don't you feel like there's a lot of dissension right now?
Oh my gosh, it's so polarized. And as the timeline split, it's going to be even more polarized. So you have to choose, you know, every single moment you're choosing sides, which side do you want to be on. But it's, you know, some people are going to fall away. That's just plain and simple. Some people are going to fall out of your life if they're choosing one timeline or the other. But when you have those opportunities to speak with someone, it's just love, empathy, and compassion.
Yeah.
You know, empathy for their suffering and holding space and listening.
Yeah.
You know, if you feel called to do that, and if not, then recognize that some relationships are going to fall away.
I thought maybe should I send like a video on like silence and like that's sort of like what I'm doing right now, unless I'm doing these obviously, which take the energy, but otherwise I'm just sort of sitting around in my yoga pants, going on walks, like lots of nature walks right now, and then just sort of really enjoying like the quiet and sitting back and watching the timeline shift.
Yeah, it's a very interesting time to
I
be
am
alive,
not
that's for
talking
sure.
a lot on social media either, unless I have a good message to share or something of value because of all the...
Yeah, and a lot of people I'm finding too, a lot of light workers are disconnecting, they're taking breaks, or they're not watching as much of the news because it's very polarized right now. And the rest of the year, especially as we get closer to the election year, is going to be that way.
I had actually heard that close to the election was going to be even more chaos. But after that, can we look for it to calm down a little bit or not so much?
I think it's what you focus on. You
Okay.
choose what you focus on. I think there's still going to be some separation and division. It's going to continue through 2021. But the beautiful thing is when you choose your experience and you choose focusing on love and empathy and you're creating your reality, then that's what you experience.
Okay,
You
got
know?
it. So it's just
don't
really important.
fixate on, you can choose what you fixate on.
Yeah, so it's just really important for us to like focus on staying in the light and not falling into like the darkness or the chaos. To me, I think that there's a real big battle right now between the dark and the light.
That's a great way of putting it.
That's what I feel is there's just a really big division, and the dark is trying really hard to pull down the light, and it's working in a lot of cases. But then I do think that a large number of people will find themselves out of that. But even with like the conspiracy theories and stuff, which a lot of them are true, we're finding them to be true now.
I just got to download.
Go ahead.
Share. So as far as the battle between light and dark, because sometimes too, even in the light work community, there's too much of a focus on positivity and light.
100%.
Shadow work is a really important part.
Yes.
But what I've been shown is there's a difference between clinging to darkness. So basically, as a light worker, as you work through the shadow and as the darkness, which the darkness has its divine purpose as well.
Absolutely.
You're not clinging to it, you're letting it pass through you.
Yeah, so like I'll just use the whole Wayfair, debacle. Like last week, like there was a certain level of like awareness that I had about that. Then it was brought to the forefront, and then I paid attention for a day or two, and then I moved on because I personally cannot stay there. I just can't. It
let it move through you.
Yeah.
Integrate it if it's your own shadow. It's not about rejecting the shadow, but
Yeah.
letting it pass through you and not clinging and staying in that energy of love and
Yeah,
compassion.
because
Whereas
if you
the
stay
darkness, they're clinging to it, and that's what's creating all the fear
chaos
and the hatred
and fear.
and the chaos.
Yeah, and if you stay there, again, we have to acknowledge it so it can transmute. But that I only allow myself to stay there for a short period of time because I'm like, that's going to drag me down, and I'm doing good right now.
Yes.
Like I'm doing really well. Like
Don't feel guilty about
breaking
that,
old patterns and breaking conditioning that I've been trying to break for a really, really long time. That I'm actually breaking for the first time right now.
That's
So
so beautiful.
back to astrology. We got a little off kilter there.
It was
but
meant to be.
That's okay.
We were meant to go there.
So I want to talk about the nodes. One of them is called your true node. I saw on the charts that you use, and then the charts that I saw from the website. I typically go to a north and south node.
I use north and south node.
Oh,
I mean,
you
it's
do?
the same, yeah.
Okay.
North-
So tell
north and
us
south
about what are the nodes? Because I've just found out these are very important.
They're very important.
I've been
Yes.
reading my horoscope for like 20 years, and I have never heard of nodes until just now.
Yeah.
So tell us about those.
So briefly, the lunar nodes are not actual planetary bodies. They're just points in the sky that when like the sun or moon pass through them, they create the eclipses. So everyone is born, so think of the eclipses as like a parentheses. Everyone is born between a parentheses, between an eclipse, a solar and lunar eclipse.
Okay.
So the north node represents the eclipse that is forward facing you as you're born, and the south node is the eclipse that happened before you were born.
Okay.
So it literally represents your past, where you're coming from, your past lives, your karma, and then the north node is where you're growing or where you're wanting to go to. So the lunar nodes represent your life purpose, the major life lessons your soul is wanting to learn and integrate. It also, your south node represents your inherent gifts and abilities, but kind of think of it as like a seesaw. They're imbalanced. Very imbalanced.
Because they're like opposites, right?
Because they're opposites.
Yeah, because when I read mine, I have Leo in this lifetime and Aquarius from like the past lifetimes. I feel much more comfortable in Aquarius energy.
Everybody. Your south node is your comfort
When
zone.
I read that I was a Leo node, I was like,
You felt triggered?
No! I felt so triggered. I was like, no! Because that sign is a little...
You and everybody else.
That sign is a little much to me. Like, I have my dad's a Leo. Like, I have a couple of Leos in my life. Like, they're a lot. But then I'm supposed to be that?
You're not. You're embodying more of that energy.
But what does that mean?
So Leo, this is a great example. I mean, Leo is about stepping into the spotlight, recognizing that you have your own unique gifts and self-expression, and honoring your own individuality and sharing that through a platform, embodying play and creativity and fun.
Meanwhile, all
joy.
Capricorns like to do is work.
Yeah.
And we're like, oh, why are you not working?
Yeah.
And then, but like, it's like play. Like, I've always known, like my dad, for instance, like, he played a ton. Like, I was like, do you do anything but like go fishing and hunting and all those kinds of things? But he's always been fine. And people like think he's real sparkly. So I'm like, but as like a Capricorn sun, I'm like, oh, we should be working more. We should be working more. So I'm supposed to embrace more play and fun.
And joy and self-expression and taking on leadership roles and being front row center.
Okay.
Which that's Aquarius South Node wants to kind of hide behind.
Yeah,
things.
it feels much more. Aquarius feels much more
you know.
comfortable to me.
Yeah.
This is like I read this about a month, maybe 6 weeks ago. I started this show not long after because I was like, oh, it's asking me, even though I don't really like. I can do it. Like when the red light turns on, like I can do it, but it's it makes me feel a little narcissistic. Does that make sense?
So that's your shadow. You got to integrate. Why is
How do I do that?
narcissistic for you to shine? We all have, as divine beings, we have our own power, and there's nothing wrong with shining.
I don't know. Could that be from like parents and stuff?
Oh, I can get into that. I mean, there's a whole lot of things. Parents, past lives.
Okay.
You know, usually depending on your lunar node placement, you chose your early childhood environment to be that obstacle for you to overcome.
Wait, what was that? I have to write that down. What was the early childhood?
Yeah, so whatever your south node represents, and it's usually both. You choose your early childhood when you're in the life planning stage in the afterlife. You choose your early childhood environment as a means of creating that obstacle for you to overcome. So you don't choose an environment that's perfectly conducive to your north node because then it would be easy, right?
So
it's not
easy.
Supposed to be easy. You're supposed to overcome those past life tendencies.
Wow. Okay.
But the fact that your father is a Leo is also part of your training, right?
Yeah. Well, and I guess I'm like, honestly, I guess I'm a little jealous of like all the Leos that I know that are like more carefree.
But it's funny. What I find is people, like the sign of their north node, like people don't like them. They feel super triggered by them or irritated by them, and that's the shadow. That is a perfect example.
But
of
what does that mean?
Like
what does that mean?
It means it's super unfamiliar territory.
Oh, unfamiliar.
Very unfamiliar.
Okay.
Something inherent within you as a divine being, but something that has been deconditioned out of you over many past lives. You know, there may be some trauma associated with it, and it's about reclaiming that part of yourself.
That makes sense because I love my Leos, like love them, but then sometimes I watch and I'm like a little judgy and I'm like, wow, they're super extra. Like,
that's
you
what
know?
they're meant to be.
Like,
they are ruled by the sun. They are literally here to be the sunlight.
Wow.
So yeah, pay attention to me, that is the sun's energy. That's exactly what they're supposed to be doing. Doesn't mean that they don't have to check their egos. We all have to check our egos.
Yeah.
That's what they're here to do.
Insane. Wow, we could go on like forever about all of this.
I could talk all day about this.
But I want to focus back on, so you also said in that video of 2020 that this is an emperor year. So you integrate some tarot and some spirituality and numerology into your astrology. So tell us what the emperor year means. We're already, more than halfway through now. We're almost through with it. So for the rest of the year, like I know we've seen the divine masculine sort of taking on a more feminine role. This year, a lot of guys are waking up, which is great. I've seen a lot on Instagram. I don't know if you have a lot of guys waking up on Instagram this year. Beautiful.
Yes.
Beautiful. So what? Tell us what that means. Emperor year with the numerology and what we can look forward to for the rest of the year as far as that energy goes.
So this is a 4 universal year in numerology. So 2020, 2 and 2 is 4.
Okay.
So that we look at the numerology of the year. But it's also like double 2, which is intuition, a more feminine connection, harmony. But as a 4 universal year in numerology, 4 years are all about stability, creating foundation, like building a solid foundation. And I think what's so interesting is that we had the Saturn-Pluto conjunction and the subsequent Jupiter-Pluto conjunctions that are literally demolishing our structure, because in a universal 4 year, it's about creating solid structure and foundation. We have to actually deconstruct. before we can construct a solid foundation. So that's
and that's why we're seeing all the chaos.
That's why we're seeing all the chaos.
Okay.
Because things that aren't sustainable, that aren't in the highest and best service of all beings everywhere, are going to have to.
Where do you think we're
shift.
headed? Like, what do you think this shift is going to bring?
I mean, as we move into the next dimension, you know, the age of Aquarius, as we become more awakened and in tune to our psychic gifts, our spiritual gifts, we're going to experience more harmony, more synchronicity. I think telepathy is not that far out.
Oh, I don't think so either. I actually feel that happens to me sometimes now.
I've had some experiences too.
Yeah.
For example, I was like my psychic abilities are just becoming so much more turned on.
Mine too. Over the past 4 months,
Yes.
I've like covered it, and I've talked to so many people who are feeling the same way, like
because
ready
we're
to jump
evolving.
into ayahuasca and plant medicine, anything that they can do to like rise up into the light workers and the soul beings they're supposed to be. Okay,
because we're moving beyond the 5 senses, right? We're multi-sensory beings. We have senses beyond the physical body, aura senses, spiritual senses, psychic senses, and they're all coming online now as we're ascending into this higher plane of energy and vibration where we're more in alignment with our divine nature.
What is the LIONSGATE in August? I was like, I gotta write that down so I remember to ask it, what does that mean? Because we're not in August yet, so we're looking to the future now. What is the LIONSGATE?
So the LIONSGATE takes place every year on August 8th, 8/8, in the infinity symbol.
It's
really a portal opening. I'm not super clear on exactly the astrological. I know it has something to do with the star Sirius as being this portal of this doorway of metaphysical downloads, and the sun, when the sun moves into the Leo constellation, it opens up the doorway for Sirius to transmute this energy.
So we're going to be getting download. We're going to be getting the solar energy
and it's an
too as humans.
Ascension portal.
Interesting.
Yes.
So for those of you who don't know what ascension means, to me, I feel like I've been in an ascension process for about 14 years now.
Yeah.
I feel like it's been like one thing after the other. I started reading about the 3D versus the 5D like years ago, the Mayan calendar years ago. So this LIONSGATE is going to be like gonna flip us even more.
Yeah, so like I say, wow, it's like amazing being in this environment with you and getting like all these downloads.
I'm having the best time. I'm having the best time of my life. I feel too. I haven't really looked at my questions, but we're just going. Yeah.
So basically, what I was shown to help you guys understand ascension, right? You have these different layers of reality.
Yes.
Kind of think of it as the bottom of the ocean, which is super heavy and dense, and you can't actually live there because it would crush you. It's so heavy and dense. That's what the 3D reality has been for so long. That's why so many of us for so many years have felt disconnected from spirit. And as you ascend in your energy and you embody more of that love and the spiritual oneness, you ascend in the ocean to those higher levels where it's lighter and there is more flow. So that's kind of the energy of the universe. It has several layers, some that are super heavy and dense and some that are incredibly light and that allow for more free form and to be your own energetic signature without having to work to pay the bills, right? Because you're just naturally going to be abundant when you're in your highest vibration.
You gotta rest.
You want to ascend up those strata of the ocean, so to speak, of the energy.
Do you think that also translates to the physical body?
Oh, yeah.
I have felt a huge
our bodies are changing.
Yes, 100%. Like, so I see NRT, kinesiology, muscle testing doctor. My blood type is a type that should eat meat. I'm O positive, whatever, from that book. So she was like, you don't eat meat? I was like, very rarely. It's just not something I really am attracted to. That came naturally. And that's not necessarily right for everybody, but that came naturally in this whole 14 years of studying and learning. So she muscle tested me for meat.
No.
And she was like, you're like one of like the 0.0000 that, and I literally thought it was because I had been through so many light body activations through the last 14 years. That was what my shaman and I did, light body.
That's
so
amazing.
it's just, it's it changes, and my physical body is much smaller than, like, lighter. Like, I weigh a lot less, like, much lighter naturally than it used to be. I personally feel like the aging process has slowed down or stopped. Like, and all of that. Like, I look back at pictures when I was 25, and I'm like, oh, wow. Like, I looked like a little haggard because I was carrying all that stress of the 3D.
Sure.
Because of conditioning and, you know, how you're raised and whatever. And then when I sort of got out on my own, like, things started changing, and then I fell upon this path.
That's beautiful.
Mars and Aries.
Mars and Aries.
Now, I, as a person who doesn't really even follow astrology that closely, I've been hearing about Mars and Aries all year.
Yes.
Mars and Aries.
Yeah, so Mars usually spends about a month and a half in a zodiac sign. But because of its retrograde cycle, this year it's going to be 6 months.
That is a long time.
Aries. It's a very long time. So Mars is our physical energy. It's our will. It's our drive, our ambition. Like, we wouldn't get up and move if it weren't for Aries, or for Mars, sorry.
Okay.
And Mars is the ruler of Aries. So Mars is super strong in Aries. And Aries is a very, rebellious fire sign. So with Mars,
the god of warfare?
The god of war.
God of war.
Aries is the god of war. Yes.
Yeah.
But Aries is also the sign of self, right? None of us would be here if we didn't have Aries energy. Aries is the who am I? I am. That is the Aries energy.
Interesting. Okay.
So Mars in Aries is going to be very initiating. We're probably going to see a lot of change, a lot of projects started. But because it is such a turbulent energy, and Mars can get angry and fiery in Aries,
very fiery.
See more rebellion. We may see more protests.
Upheavals.
We may see a lot of upheaval. Yeah, especially as I have this on my calendar, which I think is super interesting. Mars is going to station direct, so it'll be retrograde in September, October, and then it's going to station direct right after the last Jupiter-Pluto conjunction, which is going to happen about a week after the election.
Ugh.
So whatever happens in
out
the
of my house
election,
that week.
whatever happens during the election, I don't think we'll have the answers by then. I think the answers will come maybe the week after.
Interesting.
And then that Jupiter-Pluto conjunction and Mars stationing direct, people are going to be like, whatever the results are, they're going to know how they feel about it. And they're going to act on it. So yeah, it could be a very turbulent month, November.
Do you think that it's going to settle down in December, January, or do you think it's going to stay a little turbulent?
But this is the thing, there's the two timelines. So it depends on which timeline you choose.
Looking at because even though there's been upheaval right now, I've been actually very relaxed and felt very safe.
Right.
So, which that's why I said I feel guilty sometimes when I talk to people not in that same space. I love talking to people like you because I can feel your calmness and you're like, well, it is what it is. Anything else? There's a portal on 9/9 as well. Is there?
Oh my gosh.
In September? Is there anything big in September that we need to know
Mars
about?
Stations direct, or stations retrograde.
Okay.
Yeah, but 9/9 is a portal, just as all number,
because
11/11 is a portal, because of the numerology.
4/4
is a portal.
6/6. Okay. Yeah. What do we need to do for the rest of the year? What do we need to look at? Warning. How do we stay as positive as we can? What should we be doing? Action steps according to the astrology.
I don't really have any action steps. It's really just surrendering, honestly, because I can tap into the energy, but the more you ascend, the more it's whatever's immediately in front of you.
Yeah. And it's just one step forward.
One step forward.
That's how I feel right now. I'm just okay, well, there's the action step.
Because as beautifully as you demonstrated, right, you knew you didn't like your job anymore. You knew you were ready for a shift, but that next step, as soon as everything hit, that next step came for you.
Yeah.
So surrendering to the present moment and being in that flow is trusting that the minute you need something, it will show up. Yeah. And thinking too far into the future of what you should do actually blocks that
monkey mind
flow. Yes.
Yeah, monkey mind. It's no good. Deepak Chopra says, do little, accomplish everything.
Yes.
Anything else that you want to talk about, mention before we finish up?
Do we want to do compatibility?
Yes, 100%. Yeah, so everybody always wants to know, I am a Capricorn, my husband is an Aquarius. It works really well. But that shouldn't be the case. So explain to us how that works, because they always tell, if you're a novice like me, if you're right beside somebody on the chart, you're not going to get along.
Yeah, don't listen to that. I mean, that's like real generic sun sign stuff.
Yeah.
So you want to take all that with a grain of salt. Yes, there are certain energies that are more complementary and those that are more contradictory. But when you're looking at compatibility, you're looking at all the energy in the chart. So where are their moon sign? What is their Venus, Mars, all that kind of thing? Where do they have placements in the 11th house, which is the house of Aquarius, or the 10th house, which is the house of Capricorn, which gives them more of that energy. So you want to look at the overall energy. So I always say, you know, if you see something, if you really like someone and you look up their sign and you find out that you're not compatible, like, don't listen to
That's
that.
what I did with my husband when I first met him. I was like, I'm gonna marry him, and then I was like, looked at his birthday, and I was like, oh no, I've been here, done this before. This is not gonna work, but it actually really works well.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's interesting.
And
So,
you're an Aquarius South Node, so you have a lot of Aquarius traits.
I love my Aquariuses. I just love them. I love having the out there woo talks with them, and like how you can you know get so deep with them. So you really can't go by sun sign at all.
You can't. You have to look at all of it. You want to look at the overall energy and how someone's complementing you. And yes, you do need to have some common ground. So if you were all Capricorn, all Earth, and he was all Aquarius, all air, like, yeah, that would never come together. But you have an air South Node, and I'm sure he has some Earth or some Capricorn in
or
his
Virgo
chart,
or
or Virgo. And so you have common ground on which to relate to and understand each other, which is what's ultimately most important.
So basically, if you like somebody, find out what time they're born, and then call Caroline. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I feel like we could go for like forever.
Magical.
But what we're going to do is we're going to cut it here, and we're going to maybe do another one at a different point. Maybe in a few months when things have shifted a little more. So thank you so much.
LIONSGATE.
I know. That's what I was thinking.
Yes.
So thank you for coming on. Tell us where we can find you at.
Yeah, so on Instagram, it's White Wolf Mystic. Same thing with YouTube. You can search White Wolf Mystic. My website is whitewolfmystic.com.
Awesome. Well, I just had the time of my life for like an hour. Thank you, Caroline. Everybody, please, if you like this video, like, subscribe, share. This is a message that we need to get out right now. And thank you for watching Connected with Krissy. And I'll link everything below to find your girl. All right. Bye, guys.